Why? Because LinkedIn is a limited selection of jobs. Those are their, let's say, highlighted jobs. In reality, there's a lot more jobs in the background that maybe that you're not seeing on LinkedIn.
Hi there, I'm Miss Dawn Godlewski, an American girl who called the cornfields of Illinois home until over 10 years ago when I started navigating the chaos of life overseas. If you've ever felt that itch for something more, that whisper telling you to break free from the ordinary, you're in the right place. This podcast is your backstage pass to the wild ride of moving abroad. I'm here to pull back the curtain on the real journey, sharing stories that are funny, dramatic, and sometimes downright unbelievable. We'll explore the gritty details, from battling culture shock and navigating tricky visa processes to celebrating those small victories that make it all worth it. So whether you're daydreaming about a new life abroad or already in the thick of it, grab your passport and let's explore what it really means to live life beyond borders. Welcome to Abroadly Speaking.
Hey there, friend. Welcome to the Abroadly Speaking podcast. My name is Miss Dahl. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm super excited that you're here today. Today, I wanted to talk about something that is essentially necessary for everyone, and yet it feels so out of touch or out of reach for so many people. And that specifically is related to finding a job abroad. And unless you're retired or independently wealthy, you probably want to find a job when you make the big move. And right now, all I see all over Instagram, Facebook, everywhere is it's impossible to find a job or just go to teach English. Those are like the two extremes, right? And neither of those are true. Neither of those will help you get a job tomorrow abroad. But today I wanted to go through some of the best ways to find a job abroad, as well as debunk some of the myths that you're probably hearing about finding the job. So if you're here for that, let's get going. There's a few myths that I hear about. We'll start there because I think that's the easiest place to start. And that specifically is related to I'm just going to go up and find something. If I show up in Germany, woohoo, I can just find a job. And while that might have been true in your gap year between, college and real life, it doesn't work if you actually want to find a job strategically, if you want to find a career abroad, if you want to have any length of time abroad because just showing up is not going to necessarily allow you to stay for very long or allow you to actually find work that you really want to do. So I think it's important to understand there are countries, Germany is actually a really great example, who have a visa program where you can job search for up to 6 months. You can live there for up to 6 months while you look for work. And it's a job search visa, which is amazing. However, that being said, that puts a time limit on. And if you don't meet it, you're kicked out. That's all you get is 6 months, right? So you have to think about strategically, do I look for a job in advance or am I 100% sure I'm going to move to Germany? Whatever I do when I get there, I don't care. I just want out, right? So there's different opportunities for you on how you want to address this and how you want to deal with it. There's another myth out there that English speakers are in demand everywhere, and that is simply not true. If you're a specialist, for example, I work in the pharma industry, I'm a specialist at what I do. English speaking is helpful because I work in a global company and I work with Americans or I work with other people who speak English. So English is necessary. But if you're not bringing in a highly sought after skill, English is not going to get you into the country. Okay. It won't magically open doors for you. English is well spoken generally throughout the world, especially in places where you're looking to move in the long run. So if you think that English is going to knock open all the doors for you, I hate to break the bubble here, but that's probably not going to help. There are things like the TEFL, Teach English as a Foreign Language, where you can get a certificate and then you're able to teach as a foreign language. You're not going to be able to move to Spain with a TEFL certificate, more than likely. You're going to be moving to a much different country where English is not widely spoken necessarily, or where it's not as developed as a market where there's a lot of people that are able to speak English. That's not to say that a TEFL is a bad way or a bad thing. It's absolutely wonderful. But just check yourself as to where you want to move, on whether, for example, the TEFL certificate will help you, or whether English is really as much of a benefit as you expect it to be. There's another myth that you can just have a remote job and move abroad. There's a little thing called a visa that you need to move abroad, and not all countries have visas that allow you to work externally. The other thing is, a lot of remote jobs actually don't let you leave the country. So just because your job says, hey, you're remote, doesn't mean that you can do that from any country in the world. So you have to be careful and double check those two things to make sure that your remote job actually is remote legally, that you have the right tax situation, that you have the right visa situation before you get cut and sent home, right? Before you extend your visa and never get to go back to that country again. So those are some myths that you might have heard. I just want to debunk a few myths before we go into actually how it works, because I think so many people hear these things and assume that everything will be easy. And then when you get in the thick of it, you're like, oh my God, why is this so much more complicated? It's this guy said it was super easy. If you've been around me in my world for any length of time, you know that I'm going to tell you like it is. So here's the way that it is. Okay. Finding a job abroad is challenging. There are some tricks and tips that I'll go through in just a minute to share with you how to do it in the best way. But though, we busted the myths that maybe you've heard from other people, and I want to make sure that you hear the honest, real reaction from me. So what does actually work? If you're looking for a job, the visa first approach, there's an opportunity to get a visa first and then start looking for a job. A lot of companies are not going to hire you unless you have a visa. And unfortunately, you kind of end up in a really bad loop because a lot of countries won't give you a visa unless you can prove that you can work. So the easiest way, I'll say, to get a job is to already have a visa. And unfortunately, that's also a challenging way of going. That's not to say it's impossible. There are countries that have what we call freelance. We've talked about this in other episodes, but freelance visas. You may also be able to work or work with a student visa if you have the right type of student visa. You may be able to work on a family reunification visa, or like I said in earlier with in Germany, you can get a look for a job, essentially visa, a job search visa. And that's not just in Germany. There's a number of countries that offer that. I just know specifically that Germany does. So if you already have a job search visa, that can be converted quite quickly into a work visa, and it's less expensive for the company to pay for you to move. So if you're looking at the visa first approach, that means you get a visa first and then you apply for work. That may be difficult for some people. There's costs associated with that. You have to put a lot of upfront fees into moving, where if you already have the visa, if you already have the job, a lot of times that's covered. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. It is possible to get a visa first. You could get a job search visa. You can also get a freelance visa. There's a few different ways to do it. It's just going to cost a little bit more money upfront. The second option is to target the right companies. Multinational or international companies that already hire foreigners are more willing to sponsor you on a visa than you would, for example, on a local company, like a local startup in Germany. The cost of sponsoring a visa is quite expensive from a company perspective. There's tax implications. And I know you don't care, but the company cares, right? The company has to put out the money for you. So unless you're like a unicorn candidate on a really small company, you're probably not going to get a visa sponsorship. But on those multinational companies, the big corporations, for us, and for example, for a pharma company that has multiple locations worldwide, or I don't know, a sports good company, they probably have the process by which they already relocate people. Banking is another good one. You can also look at, I don't know, like accounting, things like that, finance, EY, PwC, those big multinational companies that have facilities worldwide probably have a way already in place in their company to sponsor visas. And so because of that, this can help you find a job that would then sponsor you to move, which is the ideal situation. If you're looking for that, how in the world do I find these multinational companies? Well, that's where LinkedIn is probably one of your best friends, or Glassdoor, or any of those. it really can help you look at companies that have locations worldwide. So one of the things that I've done, for example, is in the search bar on LinkedIn, you can type in, I don't know, job in Portugal. You can put in Portugal. I'll pick on them for a second. And then all of the jobs are in Portugal are going to pop up, for example, within your field that you would potentially be interested in. Start looking for companies that you recognize. Those global companies that are in there, go to their website and look for jobs on their website and not just the LinkedIn jobs. Why? Because LinkedIn is a limited selection of jobs. Those are their, let's say, highlighted jobs. In reality, there's a lot more jobs in the background that you're not seeing on LinkedIn, potentially. I'll say that, that you can look for then in their actual company profile and then start applying there. That's a really great way to avoid only looking on LinkedIn. But that being said, if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. If you want a job, get on LinkedIn and make sure that your LinkedIn profile shows that you're willing to move, shows and highlights the great asset you would be to the company. But please don't put job seeker in your headline. Like, nobody is going to hire you when that's the case. So definitely make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date, that you're looking on LinkedIn for those multinational corporations that can help you. And then eventually it would make the process of finding a visa much easier, for example. The other option or the other way of doing this is what I would call networking. And I know this is pretty much the worst of the worst for someone like me who absolutely is not the best at peopling most of the time. But one of the things you can consider is looking at a bunch of different people in your industry that you admire or that you follow that already live abroad, and follow them on LinkedIn, comment on their posts, become a social stalker almost. I don't really mean that, but in reality, connecting with other expats or other people that live abroad is really going to give you the inside scoop on what's available for you. So look at people who are in your industry or in your job function that already live abroad and start to connect with them. Find out from them, how did you move abroad? What's your favorite part of living abroad? Make it a natural connection. Don't cold DM me on LinkedIn and say, I want to move abroad. Tell me everything that you did. I'm not going to answer you on that. Well, I will, but most people won't, right? The reality is, for the people who are already living abroad, we've had some tricks and tips on what we've done to get abroad, but I don't want to tell you how my business runs necessarily because that may not be effective for you. So definitely find somebody in your own industry that you admire, that maybe you've worked with in the past, or you've worked with somebody, the same company before, right? And you have some sort of connection. Cold DMing people probably is not going to get you the result that you want. But if you're selective in making connections, you can absolutely start networking and find people who are looking for the ability to move abroad or the ability to move someone abroad with them. Another not so comfortable idea, and I'll say this because I know a lot of people are resistant to this. Consider a lateral or even a demotion to move abroad. If you're really, really serious about making the move, it may require you to not get the same level of job that you have right now. So if you're a director, you may be looking at a job abroad as either another director or as an associate director, and not necessarily as like a senior director, right? Or a manager, whatever title you want to call it. I don't know. But looking at things in a more holistic view and saying, hey, wait a minute, I really, really want this. I know that I would rather get a promotion to move abroad because who doesn't want more money, right? But I'm really serious about moving abroad and I'm willing to take a demotion or I'm willing to take a small pay cut so long as I can still live comfortably in order to move. I know it doesn't sound ideal, but that may be one way that you're you're able to make the move easier, and this might be your ticket to move abroad. It means playing the long game for sure, but that also means that it's okay to take the big jump and make the move abroad, and you're escaping where you want to get out of without feeling like, oh man, I'm never going to be able to leave, because you're only looking for jobs that that are higher up than where you are right now. Now, if you're actually looking for a job and you're ready to go, you found jobs you want to apply for, please do not use your American resume to apply for a job anywhere else outside of the United States. Okay? The same applies. If you have a German resume, please, please, please check the local requirements of the country that you're applying in. Okay? That means that, for example, here in Switzerland, most people include in their resumes a picture. They include their birth date. They include their pronouns, for example. That's been common here as well. And hobbies are something that we include on my resume, even though that's something that in the United States would be completely unheard of. I would never include a picture, my birth date, my hobbies on my resume. Just wouldn't happen. Why? Because that's the customs here in Europe, or I'm sorry, here in Switzerland versus the customs in the United States. And each country has slightly different customs. Just because Germany wants your picture in a circle might mean that, for example, Austria, typically your picture would be in a square. I don't know, I'm making that up, but definitely look up the local customs for what a resume should look like, or a CV, a curriculum vitae, in that country. How many pages should it be? Are you highlighting bullet points? Are you writing it as a paragraph? Make sure that you look that up so that you meet the customs of that local country. Because if you're applying for a job with your American, and I'm picking on Americans for a second because I am, but if you're applying for your job with a traditional American resume, oftentimes they're going to look at you and you're going to go automatically into the wastebasket because it just isn't what they're looking for. You haven't taken the time to show that you're actually interested in the country, that you're actually interested in applying for the role that is what is there, right? So just to consider that as you're going through, take a look at your resume, take a look at the customs that are local to that country. Next, cover letters. No, these are not optional when you're trying to get a job abroad. These are not to whom it may concern. I want the job. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. John, that's not how it works. You need to be personalized as much as you can find out about the role. Oftentimes in the advertisement for the role, you'll find the hiring manager or you'll find the HR representative. Personalize the cover letter to the person that you're sending it to, right? So if it says the HR recruiter is Joe Smith, dear Mr. Smith or dear Mrs. Smith, whatever it is, right? Make sure that you're customizing it to the person. Be respectful. In a lot of countries, I'll pick on Austria having lived there. Dear Miss Stell is not going to fly, but Dear Mrs. Godlewski is. So you need to be careful to understand not only the customs of the resume CV, but also the customs of how do we address people in that country. In the US, it's common that we would address people by their first names casually, while in Switzerland, or I'm sorry, in Austria, that's not as common. More likely, you're going to address someone by Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so because that's the way that it works. Please avoid using to whom it may concern because that means that I'm just mailing this in and I don't care. Also, on your cover letter, explain why you are the right candidate for the role, not somebody else that's local. What it makes you different, what makes you unique, what makes you the unicorn that should get this job or should at least get an interview for the role versus somebody who's local. This will also then help you have a conversation. Essentially, your cover letter is the first conversation you're having with your recruiter, and that will keep you out, at least for a little bit, it will keep you out of the wastebasket because you'll be able to show this is why I'm the right person for this role. All of this to say, please also do not just send 500 applications out with the same resume and the same cover letter. That's guaranteed failure and wasting all of your time, right? So definitely take a look, apply strategically, apply for jobs in global multinational companies wherever possible. Or if you are going to apply for a local company, that's okay too. Just be very, very honest about your visa status with them. Tell them in the cover letter that you currently don't have a visa, that you would need visa sponsorship, but this is the reason why they should invest in you and that visa sponsorship process, right? It makes it easier and better for them to be upfront. The other thing is, one more, and this will be my last tip for the day because I just want to make sure that everything makes sense. When you are talking about whether or not you speak the language, because a lot of times they're going to ask you, do you speak the language locally, right? So if you're applying for a job in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, if you're applying in a job in Japan, do you speak Japanese? Yes or no? When you answer that, even if you've completed 1,000 days of Duolingo, please be honest with yourself. Will you be able to have a conversation with someone in the language when you show up? Yes or no? If it's no, and you've completed 1,000 days of Duolingo, then you're probably a beginner in the language. If you can have a conversation, I am now probably fluent in German. I tested fluent in German. So I'm willing to say that I am conversational in German. I would not be able to do a business contract negotiation in German, even though I've lived in Switzerland for so long, even though I have the language daily, even though I'm comfortable speaking and can go to the supermarket, I can have a lunch conversation. I can even have a business conversation in German, but I am not qualified to write a contract in German, even if I were really great at it, right? So I think it's really important to be honest with yourself and then honest with your employer when they ask about the local language. It's great that you're learning in Duolingo, and I am 100% behind learning the language as much as you can. And also be respectful of the country and yourself to say, look, I'm a beginner or I'm an intermediate or I'm fully fluent. If you're one of the people that can speak multiple languages in the US, for example, if you're both Spanish speaking and English speaking, definitely write that down. Definitely talk about it. But if you're really only a beginner or the only thing you've done is Rosetta Stone, Duolingo, Babbel, whatever, then consider realistically for yourself, can you hold a conversation? Can you, is all you can say is the dog eats cookies, right? So make sure that you have that level of understanding so that you answer the question appropriately. All right, enough of me ranting today about finding a job abroad. I hope this one was helpful for you. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I'm more than happy to help. I also have a whole mini course about finding a job abroad. It's my career and professional life module, part of my REACH framework. The career and professional life module walks you through much more detail about all of these tips that I give you today, exactly what you need to look for, exactly how to look for a job, where the best places are, those sorts of things. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Feel free to shoot me an email or send me a DM on Instagram. I'm more than happy to have a talk about it. I think it's really amazing. I'm super excited about that module. And of course, as always, if there's anything that you need, I'm happy to try and do my best to answer. All right, my friend, I wish you a very good job hunt journey, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to A Broadly Speaking. If today's episode got you dreaming a little bigger or thinking a little braver, go ahead and hit subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who's ready for their own adventure. And hey, don't be a stranger. Come hang out with me over on Instagram at I am Estelle for the real, unfiltered life abroad. Keep that passport handy, and remember, life's too short to stay in one place.